Hey, what's up everyone? My name is Jeff, and today, even though I feel like poop, we are going to be diving into the top 20 cards from Strixhaven. And I was going to do top 10 initially, but every time I start doing top 10 stuff, it ends up being like top 20 or whatever. And even this one, I probably have like a couple of cards that are meshing together to fit up one of the slots. And so it's probably like top 25. And we're going to dive right into the good stuff right away. I don't want to bore you guys with going from number 20 all the way up to top 10. Although even all these cards are important to talk about. They're all really good. I think we'll be showing up for sure. I'm not that kind of YouTuber. I'm not the guy that's going to be like, I don't like to clickbait and do stuff unless it's actually what's going to be happening. So make sure you guys like the video and subscribe. And even though I'm down with the sickness, we are going to be diving into the good cards. So let's do it. Vanishing Verse, 2 mana instant, exile target mono-colored permanent. This is my favorite card. I think not just my favorite card. I think this is the card that is the most powerful from Strixhaven. And the reason why is because I think this goes into so many formats. First off, I think it's good in both standard and historic. I think that the Orzhov colors are powerful enough to still see lots of play. I think that Cleric's got even more good stuff in this last one. And that this is probably one of the things that we're missing is just good interaction. And this is the best interaction there is. This just, it hits everything in standard right now. Like everything that really matters. And if it doesn't get hit by this, then there's other good removal for it. You know? And so Vanishing Verse, I think, is just a super powerful card. Exile target mono-colored permanent. Embercleave, Great Henge, Onyx, Elder Gargaroth, Questing Beast, everything gets hit by this. The only things that don't get hit are things that don't have any color. So colorless artifacts like the snake doesn't get hit by this still, although it has protection from multicolored anyway. And then some of the dragons I think will be coming up. And some of the important things that will be coming in as well is this deck here. And so I actually am putting 2 cards here for the thought number 2 because I think that together they become really, really powerful cards. Although I do think Clever Lumimancer on the left side, the uncommon one, is the one that's the most powerful. 1 mana, 0/1. Whenever you cast or copy an instant sorcery spell, it gets +2/+2 until end of turn. This is just a really busted card. It's so good. I mean, a Kumhal Hound we've seen before. It's basically double prowess, which we've already seen the ability of having a 1 mana prowess creature in the past, and having it give double prowess whenever you cast stuff or copy stuff, which does actually become relevant with. There's the 1 white card and the 1 black card that we get that you copy it for each spell that you copied before, so you kind of get this storm effect with it. And each of those copies will also bump the Lumimancer. I really do think that by turn 3, turn 4, like on turn 3, you should be able to cast Clever Lumimancer and copy and probably make it up to like I don't even know, like a 9/11 or something like that. Like so busted. I guess it has to go by even. So 8, 9. There we go. Which is a big hit on turn 3 from 1 creature that you can have multiples of potentially. Leonin Lightscribe also just be able to give prowess to everything. All of a sudden makes Clever Lumimancer on turn 3 just so busted. Like it just, these 2 cards I think is the ultimate combo. I think you can go for is Clever Lumimancer, Leonin Lightscribe, and then having like 3 spells that you can cast afterwards. Just will come really close, especially if those cards give buff spells as well, or like different effects. And you could even be like a double strike effect or something like that. This just is so busted. I think it's really, really powerful. The biggest issue I think that we're going to see is whether or not they can find the right spells, the instants or sorceries to fit into this stack that work right. If it needs to be going into different colors, it makes it a little bit worse. If it's good enough in just mono white, then it'll be really, really busted, but we'll see. All right, the 3-drop slot I'm putting in with all of the Elder Dragons, kind of. I did separate them all out because I'm putting them in the order I think is good. The Silvercore one doesn't even get in here because while it is a fun effect, I think it's more of a commander effect instead of stuff for Arena, which is what I'm talking about. In that one, it just gives too much value to your opponent's stuff. Anyway, Galazeth, Prismari, 4 mana, 3/4, flying. And it is kind of funny how like the least expensive one definitely is the one that gets to see more play. Enters the battlefield and creates a treasure. I think treasure is just too valuable. Like there's already Goldspan Dragon. There's ways to deal damage to only non-dragon creatures. This has the effect of artifacts, so all artifacts, not just treasures, all artifacts tap to add 1 mana of any color, spend it for instants and sorceries, which I think that we've already seen like the Goldspan Dragon control deck. This can fit into that deck. It can fit into like an Tempo or aggro deck. I think this just fits into so many things. and it fits into things that are already there, that it's just a really, really powerful card. I'm a big fan of this card. I do think that it will see play. It combines so well with Goldspan Dragon, and that's what Goldspan Dragon has been needing, is things that combine well with it. The biggest issue that's had is that the thing that combined the best with it so far was Magda, and Magda is good, but it needs a workaround to really make it powerful. And Goldspan Dragon is, of course, going to see lots of different things, but this just enables Goldspan Dragon in different ways that I think is really, really powerful. All right. Villamuckus Lorehold. So 7 mana, 5/5 flying, vigilance, haste. Whenever it attacks with the top 7 cards of your library, you may cast an instant sorcery spell with mana value less than or equal to its power from among them without paying its mana cost. So this is the main tutor card. This is Luca and Transmogrify. You want to Transmogrify or Luca into this card and then cast spells for free. That's a really powerful thing. And the spell that you probably are casting is the Lorehold card, the Lorehold, whatever it's called, command, is really good. There's a bunch of other 5 costs or less things that you can be casting for instant and sorcery that you get for free with this. It's just so good. So, and it has vigilance as well. So you go tutor for this with Luca, with Transmogrify. You have flying, vigilance, and haste, so it gets attack in right away. It gets to do all the things, and so this is a really, really powerful card. I think that there's a bunch of different ways that you can make this powerful too. Like, it is just a really good thing to play on turn 7 as well. I do think it's good enough with all of just its base stats being good enough, and then having the ability as well, so you can go tutor or dig up and hopefully hit removal, rip apart, hit them with whatever it is that you got. And I think this is good stuff. And so I'm excited to see where this deck ends up being in the long run. And yeah, it's good. All right, guys, I'm really starting to feel it now talking. It hurts. All right, Tanazir Quandrix, 5 mana 4/4 flying with trample. Whenever it enters the battlefield, double the number of +1/+1 encounters on a creature you control. Whenever it attacks, you may have base power and toughness of other creatures you control become equal to Tanazir's power and toughness until end turn. This is just, it does enough stuff that it's really powerful. I'm putting all these Elder Dragons together, even though I'm not sure if I fit all of them into the same realm of these top 10. But I wanted to put them together to kind of show my order of where I think these are at. And this one is a really powerful card. I think that it will actually see quite a bit of play. It does a lot of stuff. I think the issue is that the decks it'll see play in are just tier 2 instead of tier 1. The effect itself is one of the best effects in the decks that this goes into, which is the Simic counter decks, kind of Simic Stompy. There's a lot of really good stuff in there. I think the biggest issue is it just gets blown up by board wipes over and over and over again. And yeah, you can play Heroic's Intervention in it, but typically that's just an interaction that is a little bit harder to be consistent with. We'll see. This could be a little bit better of a Stompy type of deck in like best of 3, being able to have the negates, have all the counter spells because you're already in blue, being able to kind of interact and control the situation a little bit better. So like maybe an actual good mid-range deck. I think it's really a powerful effect. It's really, really good. This is honestly a really powerful commander as well. Just get a bunch of creatures that have either base power 1 or 0 that put counters on themselves. And then when they attack in, everything gets +4/+4. Like, that's good. That's a pretty good amount of pluses, to add to it. And so it's a really powerful effect. I like it. It's for the cost as well. It's pretty decent. Beledros Witherbloom, 7 mana, 4/4 flying. This one almost came up to like slot 2 or whatever. I'm still not sure exactly where to rate this one. So every upkeep, so yours and theirs, you create a 1/1 black and pest creature token with, when this creature dies, you gain 1 life. And then you can pay 10 life, untap all lands you control, activate this once each turn. So you can have this be a massive ramp. So I think that's the way that you play this, is that you want to be able to like be gaining some life in the early game, ramping up, Binding of the Gods, cultivates, whatever, ramp up. This can go into, this doesn't quite go into the Sultai Ultimatum deck right away, because you need monocolored cards with the Ultimatum. I believe that's how it works. Go get monocolored cards. And so this doesn't quite work for that, but you can also just pay 10 life, untap all lands, and play another Alrund's Epiphany. You can start just getting a bunch of these effects, and Beledros Witherbloom can be really, really powerful. So I think this is good. I'm not sure where exactly this fits, and it might be something like what's it called? I think that there's a Bolas' Citadel deck that's in all of this that I think is really, really powerful, especially with Magecraft and Storm effects. And so maybe this fits more into like a historic deck, but the card itself, the effect is really busted, really powerful, super, super good. It's too expensive for standard. I guess that's the main thing. It's too expensive for standard, I think, right now, especially because it can come out and be targeted with removal right away. And then you're going to have to pay 10 life to get the effect that does a thing. You didn't even get to the upkeep before you got the token. It just feels like a really big investment to get nothing out of it, especially if you've spent all your cards to get up to 7 mana and don't have like anything in hand. I don't know. It's a good card. I'm just not sure exactly where it's at. All right, let's dive into some other good stuff here. This one I think is probably the actual number 4 slot. And I may be valuing this higher than other people will, but I think it's good. 4 mana Cooling Ritual, destroy each non-land permanent with mana value 2 or less, and you get to add black or green mana for each permanent destroyed this way. It's so good. The biggest thing is that this hits so many things in the format right now anyway. And oh no, I spent my entire turn casting a removal spell that didn't get all of the creatures. Well, guess what? Now you have 1,000,000 mana to do it with. So I don't see why. There's been a lot of people that are kind of downing this, or like I've heard other people not thinking this one as good. I think this is so busted. I actually think this hits so many things in the format that even if you maybe aren't playing this as a full play set, you're at least playing as a 2 or 3 of in the deck. And when you get this off, it'll ramp you up so much that it's just game over. And a game over from just a board wipe, yeah, that happens sometimes, but I don't think to the extent that this one will get you there. Like, and not only that, but there's still a lot of tokens that are going to be out there. I think there's more tokens from Strixhaven, that there will be quite a few like little effects that give you tokens here and there. That any token, treasure tokens, which is relevant as well. Although those can sack in response, and people might do it, but I think oftentimes you'll just get them. You'll do it without them recognizing. A lot of people don't play around it in arena. How about that? Anyway, there's a lot of different things that you can get with this. There's a lot of tokens. I think not only that, but if you're playing commander, this hits all mana rocks basically. That's just so good. And you get so much mana out of it that you can probably do some really busted things on the turn as well. Speaking of busted things that you can do with it, Professor Onyx, I really do think there's a really powerful deck with Professor Onyx. I am ranking this. I don't think I've seen anyone else talk about this card being good. I think this is actually a really powerful card. Liliana, 6 mana, 5/5. And the main reason it's good is simply because of this Magecraft ability. Whenever you cast or copy an instant or search a spell, each opponent loses 2 life and you gain 2 life. So Tendrils of Agony on a Liliana that just is staying out there permanently and doing stuff. And so the biggest thing I've seen is like, oh, well, the effects itself aren't that powerful. They're just like dumbed down version of actual cards you can play. Well, that's okay. They're good effects. +1, lose 1 life, look at the top 3 cards of the library, put 1 into your hand and 1 into rest into your graveyard. Sometimes you're wanting to fill your graveyard for your Crocs that you're going to bring back or for whatever else. It's card advantage. -3, each opponent sacrifices a creature with the greatest power among creatures that player controls. So they sacrifice stuff. We're already wanting that with what's her bucket, the one with the lantern. So sacrifice effect also works. So that goes into that deck. And -8, each opponent may discard a card. If they don't, they lose 3 life. Repeat this process 6 more times. Also, again, goes with the Turgid deck as well. And so I think that this is a super powerful card. I think there's also just a I'm not sure how to say it. It's like a controller ramp deck where you just get up to Professor Onyx and then just keep controlling the board, either in Esper, whatever colors you want to be in. And this is the way that you finish them off, as with the Liliana. And I do think that it does enough stuff to be effective enough to do that. Looking for the top card every single turn. The biggest thing is just probably finding the turn that you can play this out without it dying. But even still, if they have like 1 big creature out that you haven't been able to kill because you're doing more target removal, because that's probably what you want to be doing with this card anyway, then you just -3 and it's dead. And so I think this is really powerful. It definitely could be worse than I'm giving it credit for, but I think this is actually going to be a really disgusting finisher in Esper control and Rakdos or whatever deck you want to go for. It's really, really good stuff. All right. The common card is getting up here pretty high, and I'm not sure that this is in the same level, but Eureka Moment. Growth Spiral on steroids, but for 2 extra mana. So instant, draw 2 cards. You may put a land card from your hand onto the battlefield. I think that it is one thing to say that Will and Rowan, things that make this cost less, all of a sudden this card just becomes really busted. And I think that the teamer spells of some sort could work with that anyway. But just being able to draw 2 cards and putting lands onto the battlefield, we've already seen be powerful. Uro did type of effect on turn 3. This is doing it on turn 4 at instant speed. Yeah, you don't get the Uro body and everything else that can happen with that, but still, getting draw 2 cards, get the land effect, I think is actually really powerful. There's a much higher chance that you hit lands with this on turn 4 as well. Like turn 4 is a lot of times when like you start running out of lands. You know, just even if you're playing a deck with tons of lands, there's still so many times that runs into that issue of like, okay, I don't have lands now on turn 4, and that's where if you are a ramp deck, you really need to be keeping your land count going up. And so I think playing something like this on turn 4 at instant speed while holding up counter spells, while holding up whatever else you need to do, okay, nothing happened I care about, Eureka moment, put out the land, and it's an untapped land, so then I can also spell pierce or do whatever else I need to, counter spell. It's just good. It's a really good card. I think that there's so many instances where this comes in. I think the biggest issue is just is the deck that wants to play this in the right colors, and this might force it to go into the right colors. So I think it's good. All right. Body of Research. I want this card to be higher up in their level. The funness side of this one goes right into slot 1. You know, this is so good. 6 mana, hard to cast card. That's one of the harder things of this one. But you create a 0/0 green and blue fractal creature token, put X+1/+1 counter on it, where X is the number of cards in your library. I was talking about this when I was first spoiling it. This already goes into the teamer ultimatum deck. Genesis Ultimatum, you play, so you're ramping up already to Genesis Ultimatum. And I don't think you play this out on turn 6 before Genesis Ultimatum, although you might. I think what you do instead is you ramp up the Genesis Ultimatum like you've always wanted to. You cast Genesis Ultimatum. Any sorceries, anything that's not a permanent just goes to your hand with Genesis Ultimatum. Looks at the top 5, puts all non-permanents, puts all the permanents on the battlefield if you want to. All non-permanents go into your hand. Body of Research can go to your hand. That means that you're hitting lands, you're hitting other stuff with Genesis Ultimatum. You already ramped up to get up to 7 lands, then you go up to 9. Well, you want to grab Body of Research and cut the fling card, Kazul's Fury, which would both go to your hand, hopefully, if you're taking the top 5. So you look at the top 5 to find your combo. If you don't have it, sweet, that's fine. You can hopefully you already drew it already, or you have just you probably hit a bunch of value then if you didn't hit these cards, and you can win with that too. Next up, Body of Research, you play it out, you make a like 30-30, 40-40 creature. If you've played Genesis Ultimate, it's probably a little bit harder. But then you Kazul's Fury and you fling it right away. So one of the biggest things here is just making a 40-40 is not powerful enough. That's right, why I keep talking about the combo. I think this is more of a combo card than it is, something that you can just play naturally and have it win. This is just super powerful. It makes a massive, massive creature. If you can give it trample, if you can get it haste, give it whatever else, some evasiveness, somehow, then I think it becomes even more powerful. But I think that combo, like Genesis Ultimatum into Body Research and Fling for the win, can be enough to actually win games and do awesome stuff. So I think that already goes in there, and probably just like as a 2 of each of the combo pieces, and then you're playing Genesis Ultimatum by itself anyway. The other side of this is maybe just casting it from the graveyard for free with different effects. There's a few effects that do that. Ifrit Flame Painter, 4 mana 1 for this one. This one I didn't quite make it into the top 10. I think it's like number 11 or something like that. But has double strike. Whenever it deals combat damage to a player, you may cast a target instant sorcery card from graveyard without paying its mana cost. And this will be put into your graveyard exile instead. So the biggest, first off, I don't actually think this deserves the top 10 for this main reason. It dies too easy. I don't think this actually ever gets in for the hit. Yes, it has a double strike. So if it ever hits the opponent, this is busted. You get to cast 2 spells, instant sorceries from graveyard for free. And you can make those really powerful things, or you can just make them value cards of just casting things. And then Magecraft might come into that or whatever. So this is a super, super, super powerful card. If it ever hits. And that's why I think this is more like a commander card. I think in commander, there's enough people that go unprotected, or you can get around, the card, the creature they are playing out as like their commander. They don't want to have die to a double striker. And so I think Ifrit Flame Painter becomes super powerful in Commander. In Standard, the odds of them not having a card to block this with, a creature to block this with, are actually really, really low. Or having the removal spell to make this just completely dead card is sad. But the instant sorceries you can cast from your graveyard, first off, are busted, super good. And then there's also just... this is just really powerful. I think it's really good. It also comes out on turn 3 really easily with the cards that discard themselves for treasure. So you place it on turn 3 and something can be attacking, and hopefully you can give it like some sort of trample or pump effect so that you can actually be hitting in. I hope that becomes an actual thing. I'm not sure if this actually is a powerful card. Like, the effect is super powerful. Does it ever hit? I don't know. All right, I passed by Cosmina because I was talking about body research. So yeah, body research can be cast with that, which would be really, really fun. Cosmina, Enigma, Sage, 3 mana, 2 loyalty. This one, I really am not totally sure how high to rank it. And the issue is because you rank it based off how powerful the other Planeswalker deck is that's built around it. Each of the Planeswalker you control has the loyalty abilities of Cosmina, Enigma, Sage, the +2. So giving other Planeswalkers +2. So Garruk doesn't have a plus ability except for his wolves dying. Giving it +2 means it gets the ultimate right away. But then you're playing a Planeswalker deck that the ultimate on Garruk wants some creatures, which there are lots of Planeswalkers that make creatures. Also in Cosmina's negative X ability, they can all negative X or 0. And because of Garruk's ability, they would all be making 3/3s, I think it is, or 2/2s. Something really, really busted. Anyway, with a bunch of effects. And so there is a deck where this comes into it. The ultimate ability, I'm not even sure if I've seen this or read it in a while. Search your library for an instant or sorcery card that shares a color with this Planeswalker. Exile that card, then shuffle. You may cast a card without paying its mana cost. So a tutor for the best thing that's in the Simic colors, which I think that's a lot more powerful in Commander, where it's like there are some just game-winning instants and sorceries. In Standard, I don't think so. So you can get to that and it'd be cool. But I think that the main effect here is each other Planeswalker you control has the loyalty abilities of Cosmina, Enigma, Sage. And so some other creatures or Planeswalkers might be able to get to the -8 quicker. And maybe going for I don't know, maybe an ultimatums. There are some other what's the oh man, I can't think of the other Planeswalkers. The other 3 mana Simic one from War of the Sparks that starts with 7 loyalty doesn't have a plus ability, uncommon. I can't think of the card anyway, but you can plus up and all of a sudden hit this on turn. You'd be able to do it on turn like 4 or 5, and you'd be able to then go off with it and go do crazy stuff and anyway, whatever. Sorry guys, I'm really, it's starting to hit now. this ain't good. All right, I've actually putting Blex Vesting Pest up here, and I think the main reason is because first off, it goes into lots of things. It enables pests, snakes, insects, and spiders, and I actually do think there will be a deck around that will be tier 2. I would say tier 2. It won't be anywhere up there, but the main power here is Search for Blex. This is so much more powerful when it comes to Commander because you have a lot more life to play around with. But Search for Blex, 4 mana sorcery. Look at the top 5 cards of your library. You may put any number of them into your hand and the rest into your graveyard. That's actually the part that I want to talk about. So you can put the rest of these into your graveyard. So it's a 4 mana, just put 5 cards into your graveyard or certain things into your hand. And so you can kind of keep the combo. One of the biggest issues with all the decks that are milling cards over is that they don't get the one card that actually they didn't want to throw into the graveyard. So paying 1 extra mana to get this kind of effect of getting like 5 cards in the graveyard, I think is actually pretty useful. So you lose 3 life for each card that you put in your hand this way. And so I think that this actually just enables a lot of graveyard type combos, which there's quite a few of those even in Standard that have been needing a card that fills the graveyard for them. This does that in really good fashion, and you can be playing pests, bats, insects, and snakes, and spiders along with it. Why not? And also just a little bit of life getting in there too. So I think Blex by itself just does all the things that it's good. The Search for Blex card is just really, really powerful. So I'm not sure what deck this actually goes into, but the effect is so powerful that I feel like it's gonna see play at some point. Same thing here. Jazzy, Oracle of Arcavios. This one I was initially going to have come in earlier. So the more and more I read the Journey to the Oracle, the land side of things, it's less awesome. Other than the fact that you can return it back to your hand and be able to cast Jazzy afterwards. You do have to build around this to be in effect. The cool thing though is like we've already seen. I think there was one of the Nylea cards from Thirst Beyond Deaths was an X spell that basically did something really similar to Journey to the Oracle, where you can, I think it's like pay X and you can put X lands from your hand onto the battlefield. Journey to the Oracle becomes a little bit cheaper if you end up having 3 lands left in hand to be able to put everything out there. The issue is that just at the difficulty of making sure that you have enough cards in hand by turn 4 to cast this and still get all the lands out of the battlefield. This is really only worthwhile if you get 2 lands or more. But I think that the power of this becomes in Jazzy, the Oracle of Avacos. If you can get up to Jazzy and you untap with Jazzy, you should just win the game. It's just so good. All right, so you can discard it to discard a card to bring it back to its owner's hand. Whenever you cast or copy an instant search spell, reveal the top card of your library. If it's a non-land card, you may cast it by paying 1 rather than paying its mana cost. If it's a land card, put it onto the battlefield. So this is so good. Just it's. If you do get to put, a land card onto the battlefield, that's really cool too. But I think what you do is you probably run a bunch of cheap cantrip effects in blue that are going to trigger the Magecraft ops, like all these things that are cheap spells, and you just cycle through them. Like once you get up to a bunch of mana, you play out Jazzy, you hopefully untap with it, and then you just kind of go off with these spells. That's what I'm really excited for. You can also play a bunch of cultivates, a bunch of other things that will put lands into your hand, as well as casting spells to make sure that the Magecraft is going off with this. And then basically every turn with Jazzy, you should be able to cast like 10 spells. And you should just get enough value out of that you should just be able to win. That's it. I think the idea with Jazzy. It's a build around, and I'm not sure what the win con ends up being in that deck, but it's super fun stuff. All right. Valentine, Dean of the Vein, and Lisette, Dean of the Root. This is probably my favorite of the Deans. Super, super powerful. 1 mana, 1/1, Menace and Lifelink on the Valentine side. If non-token creature opponent controls would die, exile instead. That's really good. Croxes go to the exile instead of graveyard if you play this out on turn 1. And there's lots of decks that are still trying to play Croxa, and this just shuts them down. And then when you do, even if something does end up dying and go to exile instead, you may pay 2 and create a pest. It's just like the text on this never ends of being good stuff. And Menace and Lifelink actually are really valuable. Like in the Orzhov, counters deck or whatever, if you want to be playing something like that. I guess that's more of a cleric's deck, but it doesn't have to be. Putting counters onto this, putting a Maul Skyclave onto this with Menace and Lifelink already. Super powerful, really good, and the effect just is staying around there anyway. So I think Valentine is just a really powerful card by itself. The biggest downside is just that it's a legendary, so you can have multiple on the battlefield at once. Oh, bummer. I guess I shouldn't play it then. No, if you want this effect so much, that's good. Anyway, Lisette, Dean of the Root, also really powerful. Whenever you gain life, you may pay 1. If you do, put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control, and those creatures gain trample until end of turn. In a stompy deck that gains incidental life is really good. A Witherbloom, gain life occasionally, put counters onto stuff, make all your creatures busted. And not only that, but there might be a ways to be gaining lots of life on one turn, have like 5 mana up, and 5 triggers of life gain happen. 5 counters on all your creatures. They all have tramples, attack in, and win the game. So I think Lisette has some really awesome work around bustedness. I think Valentine already works with it, the fact that you can gain life. Although the issue is that it gains life. If you're playing like Maul the Skyclaves, like a Abzan version of this, it hits in for lifelink instant at first strike speed. You can pay the 1 life, put counters on all your creatures that you're attacking with. All of a sudden, everything gets trample and does awesome, cool stuff. So there's decks that you can end up doing with them together. I think that really though, this probably go into like almost separate decks, which is kind of funny. Where like you get both sides of it in each deck you're playing it with, but really you're only casting the one side of it a lot of the time. Anyway, the other Dean, they made it into this one. Polaric Dean of Chaos is actually really cool. Augusta is the reason that this card is in here, but let's talk about it in order here. It's Auric Shaman, 2/2, discard and draw a card. And then you can pay 5 to tap it, reveal cards from the top of your library until you reveal a non-legendary, non-land card with mana value 3 or less, and you may cast a card without paying its mana cost. So just that effect by itself, looking at the top, just revealing cards from the top of your library until you hit something. So being able to hit stuff with this is really powerful by itself. And reveal all cards not cast this way. You could set up your deck to where all the things that you are casting, like you end up just hitting for sure this spell is going to go off with it. And maybe that's something like Tybalt's Trickery. I don't even know. Like there's some silly stuff you can do with this. The effect is powerful by itself. I'm not sure you're paying 5 to hit something for 3 value less, but it could be removal. And this could just be okay, once you get the late game, it's 5 mana tap it. I get removal every time that I need it at instant speed. So it's pretty good. Augusta, Dean of Order. This is a card I like because of the last ability here. The other abilities are really good. Tapped creatures you control get +1/+0. If they're tapping and attacking, then they're getting +1. Other untapped creatures you control get +0/+1, so they can be really good defenders. I think this just is really powerful with Magda. Magda is a card that just needs, like, its effect is so powerful that anything that adds to it, it makes it more powerful, is really, really good. Just the fact that on turn 1 you can play Staunch Shieldmate, on turn 2 Magda, attack with a Shieldmate, get a treasure. On turn 3 play out Augusta, Dean of Order. Whenever you untap each creature you control and then tap that any number of creatures again, so they attack into attack. The Shieldmate, Staunch Shieldmate and Magda attack in again. You get 2 more treasures, you're up to 3 now. You can untap them and then tap them again. You get 5 treasures. You can immediately go grab a dragon on turn 3. That's the reason why I think Augusta actually becomes really powerful. And the fact that Plarg, okay, it has to hit non-legendary, but I was going to say it can go grab Magda, but it has to hit non-legendary cards. But the Plarg side isn't that awful either if you do end up running into multiple of these. So I'm not sure if that's good enough just to run around it just by itself, but I think that there is like this Boros aggro deck that we've already been seeing available to play. We still have Bonecrusher Giants to fit into that deck. We still have a bunch of other things, and that's something that Plarg can go hit is Bonecrusher Giants. Throw it onto the battlefield as well. Or use the Stomp side. Anyway, I think that this is a powerful enough card that I do think it will see play. Yeah, it's an interesting one for sure. Here's another one. Augmenter Pugilist, 3 mana 3/3 Troll Druid, Trample. As long as you control 8 or more lands, it gets +5/+5. So it's a 3 mana 8/8 as long as you have 8 or more lands, which is really, really good. I think it's a good card. Just a 3 mana 3/3 with Trample. Is that powerful enough in all of the other like stompy decks that are out there? I'm not sure, but adding in Echoing Equation to the equation, 5 mana sorcery. Choose target creature you control. Each other creature you control becomes a copy of it until end of turn, except those creatures aren't legendary if the chosen creature is legendary. I'm not sure exactly how to break this. Never mind. I know exactly how to break this in standard. Turn them all into Vorinclexes, turn them all into Questing Beasts, turn them all into whatever strikes your fancy. But easily, like, so play a bunch of creatures, have a bunch of maybe mana dorks or something like that to kind of add up stuff, or ways to put out more lands so you can get the extra side of this. And then maybe you do get up to 8 lands. You play out Augmenter Pugilist on turn 3, get up to turn 5. You somehow got more lands out there. Everything becomes an 8/8 with Trample. Can definitely win games. So Echo Equation, though, I think the biggest thing is here is that you turn everything into an Elder Gargoth. Elder Gargoth is really powerful. It goes into the Simic Stompy deck really well. And I think that's where you play. I think you play probably Lotus Cobras, you play Landfall, maybe Scoot Swarm even to get lots of creatures out into the battlefield. This can turn everything into Scoot Swarm, play out a land, your 6th land, all of a sudden there's a million Scoot Swarms. And then I think that they stop being at until end of turn, so they'll actually make copies of the Scoot Swarm side of things. I'm not sure if they would stop, the other copies would stop being the copy of Scoot Swarms, but the creatures, the non-token creatures, would end up still being, I don't know, it's kind of weird. Anyway, I think you can do some really busted fun stuff with this card in the decks that are already in these colors anyway, and so I'm super excited to see where this card goes, and we'll see. Okay, we have 2 more cards to talk about. Daemogoth Titan, 4 mana 11/10. Whenever attacks or blocks, sacrifice a creature. I think it's just the stats on this are busted. You want to sacrifice creatures in some decks anyway, and so that's not really a downside. Being able to attack or block, which is really nice. And then I think that the biggest thing with this card is just that you can fling it you can do a bunch of things with it. There's also the card from Ikoria that wants stuff in the graveyard that it can then get its power. The grub or whatever. It's definitely a silly card, but we were playing that in the past, and it actually does better than I thought. Just like having something with 11 power that you can be attacking in with. The grub can go grab this, and this is an easier thing to run to the graveyard or get there, and just have like that effect again. The fleeing effects, of course, are nice at this as well. Pretty hard to cast with the having 4 black or green sources makes it a little bit easier because it can be whatever you want it to be, and then you can maybe splash into a third color that way as well. But it still makes it a little bit more difficult to go into another color, especially with their mana base right now, where it's really difficult. Callous Blood Mage, 3 mana, 2/1. Whenever enters the battlefield, choose one. And this is in here just because this is just a really versatile card, and it's at the very bottom. It's number 20 or whatever number we're on right now. Whenever enters the battlefield, choose one. Either create a 1/1 black pest creature token when it dies, gaining life. So if you want sacrifice fodder, boom, bam, there it is. It can enter and also help you draw a card. You can lose 1 life, which is just good card advantage, or you can exile target player's graveyard. And so exile graveyards is just a nice effect. I think this just ends up seeing play. It's just good. There's a lot of, it just does all the good things. And so why not have all of the things available to you whenever you cast this one? Just whatever thing is the best for the situation is great. All right, guys, I made it through it. I'm sorry I've not been feeling well for the last few days, and so I've been doing a little bit less content, but I got something up for you. You're welcome. Like and subscribe to support what I'm doing here, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Thanks so much, and bye-bye.